Hi everybody, welcome back to session 4 of Mad Pride, day 2. What we're going to do now is Peter Saltmarsh is going to actually do a little bit of a walk down history lane with some of the experiences that have actually got him into this position. And for those who are not fortunate enough to be here today, I'd encourage you to actually just type in Kia's name into Google and have a look at some of the things he's actually been involved in. Kia is one of these people that he's most probably forgotten more than he's actually done.
That's it, the old memory from over time.
So without any further ado, if you really get pushed for things, I can always show them Consumer Man and you get stuck.
That's it.
And there will be time for questions. And we'd actually ask people one or two things that if you're not brave enough to come here and speak into this so we can record it for posterity, because we're going to actually have a section on the Super CRO website of what's called PAQ. And that's not piss off quick, that's previously asked questions. Because a lot of people ask the same questions over and over, and part of what we're going to do is actually capture that information in a verbal form. So, welcome Kia.
Thanks, Doug. It's always a pleasure to be asked by Doug to do any number of things. Doug's been an absolute stalwart over the years and has been a dear friend and colleague of mine, especially during some of my more interesting episodes where it's been there, available and present, which is often the case that you need when going through mental health issues or challenges. But Doug's asked me to talk about some aspects of my story over time, and I started with a father who ended up being a Methodist minister and then ended up in politics, and he was a very good politician, and he first joined the Labor Party, and then he was quite disenfranchised by the way in which the Labor Party operated, so he decided to jump across to the Liberal Party and almost became a minister under the Hamer government back in Victoria many years ago. And he was revered as being the conscience of the Liberal Party because he was a Methodist minister. So he had a very much a social conscience about him, and I think that social consciousness led to me in terms of being very present and knowledgeable and knowing of people's rights. So I started off life as a pretty exuberant young person and went into acting and studied at St Martin's Youth Arts Centre down in Melbourne alongside some pretty famous actors. Mark Trevorrow, who ended up becoming Bob Down, Gina Riley, Jane Turner, who ended up becoming Kath and Kim, Noah Taylor, who ended up becoming a pretty famous actor in his own right. So I would muck around and do all sorts of things and ended up getting into some TV series and so on, and then I got a part on the Anzacs, playing opposite Paul Hogan, and I had my first psychotic episode on the set of Anzacs, and I'd just signed a contract to play opposite Kylie Minogue in the Henderson's Kids, so my star was rising and I thought things were on the way up, but I ended up in the old institutions, the old bins, so a place called the Rundle in Melbourne. And it was back in the days when it was, people with mental illness or people that had episodes were very fearful in the community and were pretty much locked away in these big, huge asylums with lots of space and so forth. And so I couldn't believe the way in which we were being treated with the locked wards and the seclusion with paint peeling off the ceiling in the seclusion room, lights flickering in the seclusion room, which all added to the hideousness of having a psychosis inside there. So I decided one of the patients at one point lifted up the record player and smashed it, and so we didn't have any music on the unit. So I thought, well, let's organise a bit of an event to raise money for a new record player. So we went ahead and we got a parachute from the main hall, and we put that up in the above the roof. And one patient came up to me and he said, "I want to be security. Can I please be security?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. We need security. You know, make sure that the people that come into the unit to come to our party are all prim and proper." So we settled for 2 o'clock start time, and 2 o'clock came and went, and no one had arrived, and we were all there in the unit waiting for, in the main living room area of the unit, waiting for people to arrive, and 2:30 arrived, and 2:45, I said, "What's going on?" So I went out to see the security guard, and said to this patient, "You know, what's happening? Where is everyone?" He said, "Oh, they're not acceptable to come in. I've turned them all away." So I had to sack him on the spot and go back to all the other units and make sure to tell everyone that it's all on. It's all on. But that was just one aspect of kind of my advocacy, and for so many episodes afterwards, I always wondered why we were so ill-treated, and it came down to the fact that it was the legal context. So the only people that can seem to help me out was the Mental Health Legal Centre. So they were able to put into context, you know, what it was. I was sanctioned under the Act, what the Act meant, why I was being treated against my will. So I ended up becoming a member of the Committee of Management from the Mental Health Legal Centre, and then ended up becoming the chairperson. So I was one of the first. They were one of the only organisations that allowed consumers to be on their board and in their organisation. And then at one point, I worked out. I was so disappointed that the CAT teams kept calling the police on me and the police would arrive in my home, and I was always so antagonistic towards the police, and I tried to work out how on earth would it be possible to be able to stop police coming into my premises. So I worked out through a process of elimination that if you formed a national political party or an intention to form a national political party, you could register your home as the secretariat of the political party, and the only people that are allowed onto a secretariat or onto the premises of the national political party are the federal police. So I worked out and liaised with the federal police officer and went ahead, and it was pretty dangerous because this political party allowed any member that signed up to the political party were immediately endorsed as a candidate. So, for example, if you had 600 members of your political party, you would have 600 candidates sitting on a ballot paper. So of course, you know, it's not that they're stupid, the national entities. They worked out this is a pretty dangerous kind of a situation. But anyway, so I got embroiled in the finites of going ahead, and when people say, you know, do federal agencies like ASIO and so forth actually get involved in those sort of things, of course they do, because I had a contact visit at one point. 2 officers came up to me and said, "Are you still going ahead with this political party?" And I said yes, and so things got a bit kind of nasty and so forth. But at the end of the day, what happened was I was in the midst of an episode, and 7 police officers came to my house, and I was able to get onto the phone to my liaison officer at the federal police and say that these police are actually trespassing on federal property. So, you know, there was the funniest conversation with this police officer, Victoria Sergeant, on the phone to my liaison officer going, "What? How did that happen? He's what? He's what? We're trespassing?" Absolutely. So I said, "Thanks, gentlemen, you need to go. And sorry I couldn't offer you a cup of coffee on the way out." So that was kind of my entry into advocacy. And from the Mental Health Legal Centre, I got the courage to get involved in consumer worker programs and applied for a job as a consumer consultant at Thomas Embling Hospital, which is a secure forensic mental health hospital. And strangely enough, when I went and applied for the position, the person that interviewed me was one of my nurses back in the days when I did the the fundraising for the record player, and she remembered me, and we had a great conversation and great rapport, and so I was lucky enough to get that gig and was able to work with very stringent, hard-nosed, hard-edged cultures, and that's by bringing it down to a very much a person-centred and people requirement level. So I was able to not only advocate on behalf of the patients, but work competently and confidently with the powers that be to slowly make little tiny changes, incremental shifts, incremental changes that made life better for those patients at Thomas Embling Hospital. We had one stage, we had the winter solstice. We had a dance party, and I had a friend who was a DJ, and we were able to get all this DJ equipment through security, and we had a dance party for the patients in at Thomas Embling Hospital, and the staff were like amazed that we were actually able to do that, and so that then transitioned to being able to get a position at the Department of Health on secondment. So I made my way in there, and all the way through. Just gently worked with the powers that be. So I wasn't one of those consumers that was kind of that right-wing extremist kind of consumer. I was very much a person that just worked collaboratively with structures, collaboratively with power structures, and worked those in a way that was to the betterment for us all. So that brings me to a kind of just a real genuine understanding and a lifelong love for the arts, and setting up, helping Heidi Everett set up a Mad Pride comedy event for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. So we had a very successful comedy event. Linda.
Heidi Everett, we know...
Sorry, microphone.
Hello, yeah. Kia, you're saying Heidi Everett did the Mad Pride comedy in Victoria, but back in 2020, I think it was, Julie, you would know that Heidi Everett sang for us in the Mad Pride concert. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
She's so talented, that girl, you know?
Yeah.
She was the star of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Doug will remember when was it in the Melbourne Thames conference where Andrew Denton did the documentary
Yeah, that's the one.
Where Heidi Everett featured in that one. Yeah.
That Andrew discovered her, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So fantastic.
Just to get
Microphone.
while that's microphone. Like you're nearly correct. Sonia Pemberton actually discovered Heidi.
Well, that's right.
And Sonia Pemberton, she was the director and producer of the shows that Andrew Denton used to do, and they approached us at the Themes conference in early 2008 because they wanted to film at the conference. And what we were able to do was smooth the way in, because the biggest fear of people who were attending the conference was actually, I don't want to be filmed, I don't want people to know that I'm actually coming to the conference. So we set up what was called a Denton-free zone. And we had this round thing with a thing, and while people were in that, they were actually out of shot. And we had a full consumer day, and at the end of the day we actually had a concert. Back then we didn't call them Mad Pride concerts because the consumer movement, whatever that is, doesn't like the word Mad Pride. No? That was 2008. That will be for another history lesson, but Heidi, she was one of the people that they'd identified, and she was one of the people that they actually followed that story through.
Yeah.
And the thing for me that still is a memory of when she stood up in front of 500 people at the end of the day and said, "Is it okay if I take a picture?" Right? she's a beautiful human being.
Yeah.
Back to you, Kev.
Yeah, no, Heidi, I came up with the idea of registering a Mad Pride event for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival back in 2019, and the first person I got in touch with was Heidi, and she said, because I jumped on the Melbourne International Comedy Festival website upon which you need to apply, and it's an incredible onerous process. There's probably about 16 different levels that you have to go through, and including public liability insurance of, I think it was $10 million. You need the certificate number from the insurance company. So I quickly realised I needed help in terms of getting VIMIAC on board, the Victorian Mental Illness Awareness Council, which is the peak consumer body in Victoria, to help us out. But Heidi had all sorts of contacts, such as Brian Nankervis, who agreed to MC for the night, for the 2 nights, and had Felicity Ward appear. So Heidi is just really well connected, highly revered within the arts sector, and is just a go-to person in terms of getting things done. But it was a fabulous night we had it over 2 nights. I think we had about a total of about 240 attendees. Concession prices for people with mental illness was $15. Normal tickets were $25. So we just broke even. But it was through the help of VIMIAC that allowed that to take place. But it was a great kind of fillip that led us to led a lot of people a lot of the artists that came and attended and presented that real confidence that this is something you can do, this is something that you're good at, and we'll look at all opportunities in the future to be able to provide avenues for support for you to continue to perform. So it has a flow-on effect. It might not be immediate, but just over time it just raises up the bar in terms of your own self-esteem, self-belief, self-kind of efficacy around the ability to be able to perform at that level, and to have the opportunity of those type of engagements in that type of an environment. Yeah. What's next, Doug? Where do we go to next? What have we done from there? Or what have I done from there? It's not that I've actively sought to...
Sorry. Can you just repeat, Julie?
Yeah, what have I done from there? Yeah. So basically, it's led to, for me personally, it's led to a couple of MC gigs, like for example yesterday. And the mayor, I was happy to hear, she said, "Oh, you're a professional comedian." But it's something that, maybe I should work on and give it a go, and, get that self-belief back in and step up and spread the consumer word more broadly through the public sector. So that's something I kind of reflected on over the last 24 hours. It might be something I'd like to do a bit more and practice and get better at doing it, and bring some joy and laughter to people, because the audience mix at our Mad Pride event at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival was there was a real mix of a lot of older people and younger people that had seen it advertised in the program and related to, may have had a mental illness or may have had an episode some years ago and thought they would come along and join in and support. So that was where that kind of enthusiasm, engenders more like-mindedness around, being a part of it and a part of the system, the Mad Pride system, so to speak.
Can I ask another question?
Yep.
Are you still acting?
Am I still acting? Yeah, look, I put myself up for a few... That's all right. I put myself up for a few commercials at times, so I've still got an agent. Not that I like the commercials readily, but I find it difficult to remember big pieces of lines, so I specialise in 13 lines or less. I can get away with 13 lines or less, but in terms of large pieces of dialogue, I struggle with that nowadays in terms of remembering it all. It's a lot of work to put it to get it down pat. Yeah. What do you reckon, Doug?
I got a couple of questions.
Yep.
One of the questions I got, it's really around thinking about the time you organised for me to go into the Thomas Embley Centre
Yes.
in Victoria. New South Wales, we've been pretty slow with coming on board with having a separate forensic hospital, and like it didn't actually happen until 2010. But in 2008, New South Wales Health was actually looking at the model that they actually had created in Victoria through the Thomas Embley Centre. And they'd organised for me to go down and actually visit you.
Yep.
And I can remember, I couldn't believe after visiting Long Bay Jail, because they had 4 yards about twice as big as this room, that they actually had 28 people in, and then they had beds off to one side. And that was like, one of the people I actually worked with was a guy called Sayed Diffusley, and how I got involved with him, and I'll get to you talking about the walk we did around, but Sayed had organised the 28 people in Ward A, and there was 4 wards, to sign a petition to have an external person come in and actually see how they were being treated. So I negotiated, and this was 2001, so I negotiated and went in to actually see what was actually going on. I was amazed that this guy had actually been able to get everyone else to sign, right? And so one of the things before 2008, I'd actually got, do you remember the psychiatrist, one of the chief psychiatrists down there at the Thomas Embley Centre? Do you remember what his name was?
Not Neil Coventry.
No.
Danny Sullivan.
No.
No.
I think, like you, his name will come to me, but we actually got him to come up and actually look at what was going on with Saeed. And so, one of the things...
Oh, not Professor Mullins.
That's him.
Yeah.
Beautiful man, right? And he came up. But one of the things when you're doing stuff for New South Wales Health is you travel first class, right? Really nice food, really nice accommodation. And so I'm down there for 3 days. But I still remember when they did the scan on the eyes.
Yeah, the iris scan.
The iris scan, and then we walked in. And I just couldn't believe the sort of stuff that you'd actually created and how far ahead you were. This was 2008. And we still, at this stage, we still didn't actually have a forensic hospital, like a separate forensic hospital.
Yep.
Like in 2010 when it opened, it was on the corner of, 4.5 acres on the corner of the Long Bay Jail.
Yep.
There was a double fence, and on one side, and the big change that happened in 2010 was that instead of, when people wouldn't take their medication, like security would jump all over you and then the nurses would force feed you with the medication.
Yep.
They actually had no security. The security couldn't get involved with the patients. And a lot of that work is we've pulled up from what we learned from you.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether you remember that.
Yeah, no, I do recall aspects of that, and it's important to note also that during that time there was a real focus on consumer participation across the whole setting, and that because of the way in which a kind of a prison secure forensic environment operates, that we had input from patients right from the unit level, and then onto the executive level as well, so that we had participation at all our levels throughout the hospital not so much hierarchy, but through the governance structures within the hospital. And it was important to give voice to patients that would often feel voiceless. We even had a food representative that maintained a constant kind of vigil around the quality of the food and fed that through all of the different mechanisms throughout the hospital. So it was important to have that real consumer participation. And to this day, there's a new facility that's being built on the Thomas Edelman site. It's a $144 million new refurbishment of the hospital, but also takes into effect, I think there's now 23 or 24 consumer workforce members that are now involved in the hospital, which is a great thing to see in terms of what used to be. So things are really progressing well. Thank you. Thanks so much. Don't go away. Jake's got more.
The plan is for the rest of the day is at 2:30. We will be watching the original concert from 2003. We actually live streamed it yesterday, and when I looked this morning, we had actually had 23 people that had actually gone on and had a look at the parts of the concert. And I'm interested in statistics. Don't go away, I've got a question. And when I looked at the statistics, of the 23 people, they'd averaged 14 minutes and 10 seconds. Now you might think, so well, it's a 2-hour concert and they've only watched 14 minutes, but when you actually understand with YouTube, the average length of time that people have watched all the things that have ever been put on is 17 seconds. So even though this thing I call seduction of business, there is an interest to actually go there and actually have a longer look. And I'm just wondering, does anybody actually have any questions for Kia? Like, this is an opportunity, only comes once in a lifetime.
I can give you my email address.
Before I ask the question, can I talk about being on the bill?
Well, being is, well, they weren't able to be here, but there are a number of stallholders here, and one of the things I'll be doing is I'll actually be thanking all the stallholders. We have the Mental Health Council of Australia. Mental Health Carers is I'll zap that out. Mental Health Carers New South Wales. We have Way Ahead. We have the warm fused glass pendants. We also have the Team Marble Challenge, and there's a marble guessing competition, and the prizes for that will be some of the warm fused glass pendants. So I'll get you to have a look at those before you leave. Linda, you've got a question for Kia.
It's a good idea for me to talk about being.
You can do that. You can do that into the camera because this will be recorded for a later date. Yep. Come up if you've got a question.
Kia, I've known Vimiac for quite a long time, okay? I've been involved with mental health since '97, right? I'm so impressed with what you've been able to achieve in Vimiac.
Yes.
You know, it's a fantastic organisation. Now, I'm really pissed off with what's happening in New South Wales with the new organisation called Being that we've got here.
Right.
I did a visit to Being office on Friday to get the flyers, you know, for the information store. Okay?
Yep.
It's a big secret to get them there. I had to get an invitation to go to the door to get in, right?
Yep.
Right? This, you know, what's a big secret? Why aren't they letting consumers visit them? You've got to get permission to go, right?
Yep.
The big question, the question is,
You can't answer that question.
I know, but the question to you, Kia, is how come you've been able to achieve so much in Victoria with Vimiac?
Yeah, I think it's goes historically back to Isabel Collins to begin with, as
Got
Doug
to
would
have the person,
attest.
don't you? The right leader.
Yeah, and then to Maggie Toko, who was the
That's right there. Yeah.
Maggie Toko, who was the CEO, and then to Craig Wallace, who's the current CEO. And I think at last count, Vimiac's now operating at over $4 million a year.
See, budget.
So
Is that from
that's a
Royal?
lot of project work that's come in from the government around the implementation of Royal Commission recommendations. But they've organised themselves in such a way where they're very open. They still have an element of advocacy and activism that is still very true to historical nature, but they've also got a contemporary take in terms of doing business well.
Yeah, and have you got a system there where you can get the consumers on the ground to have a voice?
That's
Have you got-
right.
Have you got a system to do that?
Yeah, that's right. They've got a very extensive register now
Yeah,
where consumers from all walks of life can apply to be on that register,
yeah.
and then to apply or to put their hands up for a whole range of opportunities, whether it be advocacy, whether it be involved in focus groups, working groups, government groups, working parties, projects, and all that kind of, the whole spectrum of work that's available that's needed for input from consumers. They have a very extensive
Yeah, so
register.
That's what's missing in New South Wales is the local consumers having a voice, you know,
Yeah.
consumer participation
Yeah.
that we used to do in 1990s. But I had a good talk to the lady there. She's like the organiser, Melanie, and she was showing, because I was asking her about the education, because there's a Mad Monday thing you get every Monday that tells you what's happening in care with being, you know. So she was showing me the education packages that they do online, you know, which is really good, you know. But I said to her, really, is there anything you're doing with face-to-face groups, you know? Consumer participation groups, self-help groups. No, they're not. No?
You could only hope over time that will improve, I think. And you know, with the formation of the national, yep,
I think another good thing is they've got a new CEO. Okay, I think she's going in the right direction, because what they offered me on Friday was they've got a new system to join, to be a member of Being. You had to go through a whole process before, get 2 referees to be able to be a member. So all I had to do on Friday was fill out a 1-page document, sign it, okay? But then you've got to be accepted by the board. And see, I got involved with New South Wales when it first started, but when they changed to Being, I think I was blackballed. They didn't approve my membership.
right.
Okay.
So it's going
Thanks,
to be
Linda.
interesting to see if I get blackballed again.
Julie. Hey?
Thank you. So my question is, given your extensive knowledge of working within the system, working outside the system, and there's been lots of support at the moment for, you know, we all understand that the mental health system is in a bit of disarray right across the country. It's not just Victoria, it's not New South Wales. And you do have the lived experience unit now with Mary O'Hagan leading that in
Yep.
Victoria, which is awesome.
Yep.
So you could talk a little bit about that, but also too, if you could talk to us about how you see or how you would like the mental health services to be, what direction they should be heading in for the future.
Yep. Yeah, so look, and it was a great pleasure because I was the first consumer to get on board into the Department of Health and was the sole consumer representative. Not that I had that title of lived experience, So I was, and it took many years, it took up until about 2012, 2013 before other workers came on board. So it was great to see, and then I headed off to the Mental Health Complaints Commission at the setup for that, and worked tirelessly in getting that set up and get consumer participation embedded within the frameworks, which they're still working out at the moment because it takes a long time when commissions start up. But I was on the interview panel for Mary O'Hagan, and we were great to, it was fantastic for her to have achieved that particular position, and for a branch, a lived experience branch, to be formed in the department, which has been is protected, and it was immune from the recent restructure, the Department of Health restructure, and where I'm at the moment, Safer Care Victoria restructure. So the lived experience component wasn't affected as much as other areas or other divisions within the department. So that signals that the reform agenda of the Royal Commission recommendations is upmost and foremost, and that leads to a whole range of entities that are now being formed, being designed, being co-designed, that are leading to the kind of mental health care and assistance. Like I would like to see hospital in the home to be the first port of call, and for you to be at the most extreme level of being unwell before even being considered to be hospitalised, and for hospital units to be imbued with lived experience workforce members that work alongside the nursing and clinical staff, and for those people that don't believe they have a mental illness to be effectively enhanced to have that view and to work with them in whatever way is necessary around that view, so that they're not harmed in any way, shape or form. And so my sense of the way in which it should be is around that hospital in the home, peer support, peer worker support being effective at all points of the spectrum within care, the type of insight, if you want to have that insight, to be available in terms of education and assistance and support. And I just still believe that comes through from peer support, so people that have been through the system or have experienced mental health issues to support someone, but to do it in the way that's the most compassionate of care, that imbues kindness, that allows for the length of time that it might take, regardless of what that might be, for that to be the case, and for resources to be piled in and piled on top, available, and the choices available at every point of the way. What choice is it that you want at this point in time, as opposed to being told what to do, forced what to do, and mandated as to what to do, because it's on our agenda and our terms. That needs to be inversed and reversed so that it's on our terms, regardless of what that impact might be on traditional ways of thinking. Does that make sense? Thanks so much. Yes.
No, you
I've got one
go
question
ahead.
from that. I have to ask, please don't leave us on.
No, you're right.
I have to ask, so agreed absolutely with everything you've just said, in hospital, home care, bring it on. Just from following that, it really leads from that question, what's your view at the moment around how treatment happens? Because just from looking within my own experience as a lived experience, but also as a carer, I'm finding that it's a very medical model. So what's your view around how treatment needs to evolve?
Yeah, I think, it should be in a timely kind of a way. So that, what I mean by that is it the right time to try out 50 milligrams of olanzapine with, with 250 milligrams of lithium times 2 twice a day, to have that level of impost come at you as opposed to going way back down and let's try 10 milligrams of olanzapine over, say, 6 to 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And if that's not working, if you're putting on weight or if you're not happy with that, let's try Latuda, for example, or let's try something else. And let's start it at 60 milligrams, let's bring it down to 40, let's bring it down to 20. So it's that inverse. So start off big and come back low, or start off low and increase slightly, but over a long period of time, and you know, to have the opportunity to titrate at different times, to come off particular medications, to try different medications, and to have hope that you might not need those medications based on what other choices do you want. So if it's NDIA or NDIS, is it yoga that you wish to embark upon? Is it eating right for your medication type? Is it exercise? Is it a whole range of things that are holistic to the person that we can work with, as opposed to going, right, I haven't got time to discuss this with you now. It's 80 milligrams of olanzapine or nothing at the moment, because we need to control we need to get the antipsychotics on board and in you quick and fast, and we're not going to have a discussion about it. It should be the total opposite way, but that also allows for insight to occur on behalf of the patient and the person around what it is that they want and what it is that do they want to graduate that down and start to having that type of a conversation and those type of conversations imbued within a system that we're designing in Victoria that will allow a whole range of different options of gender-based care. So female-only units, for example, that are now occurring. You know, we've got respite, not parks, preventive and recovery care units, but we've got a peer-run medical unit that's going to be operating that allows for those type of conversations. So it's kind of the total inverse of what we've known. So it's completely kind of turned on its head. And in turning on its head, that's what consumers are asking for, and that's what consumers and carers have been wanting. So now we're starting to get that, and will that then spread through the system where we've got inpatient units as the absolute last resort, as well as the eradication of seclusion and restraint, which is a long-term project, as well as improvements to EDs, improvements to access to EDs, and again that flows on into changes to the Mental Health Act, which are inside of and can be done over time. So the short answer is control on behalf of the consumer and the carer around what's best for you over what time is best for you. Right.
Just before we wind up, one of the things Kia said to me, I don't think I can actually go for an hour.
How long have we gone for?
55 minutes.
Okay, right.
There were some interesting questions asked through there, and we will be holding a forum during, this is Super CRO, during Mental Health Month, which goes for October, and we'll be inviting both Being and Mental Health Carers New South Wales to actually talk about their vision for the next 5 to 10 years, what they see happening in New South Wales.
Thank you.
I've got some views. I'd love to stand here for the next 20 minutes talking about why New South Wales CAGs, where it's at. One of the big differences between VMIAC and New South Wales is they've always had someone with lived experience at the helm, both on the board and employed. We haven't had that luxury in New South Wales. When you read my memoirs, it comes out in about 18 months, you'll get some of that. But Claire, thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
I'd really like to talk to you about being the facilitator for this Dare to Dream Forum in October.
Yep.
It'll be online, and it'll be a repetition of what we actually did back in 2014.
Would love to, yeah.
So
Yeah.
can I just get everybody, he looks like he's wound up now, wanting to keep going. But we're getting very close to where we've got to actually put this movie on for those people who like to stick to time, but you've got the last say.
Oh, look, just thank you all and keep up the great work that you're all doing and ensure that there's always a different way of doing things and there's always hope on the horizon.